Hello, wonderful, amazing, fantastic geometry students. This is Miss Youngblood here, bringing you another geometry video. And in today's video, we're going to be going through session 2 for the week of May 18th through 22nd. So let's look at our browser and see what that session is. So again, I'm in the Geometry Google Classroom. I'm in the classwork section. I'm going to scroll down to session 2 for today's topic, which is using the Pythagorean Theorem. So we're going to go ahead and click on Khan Academy. Again, the link should take you straight to your Khan Academy account. If it doesn't, you should be on the Khan Academy page, and then you should log in using whatever email you used to sign up for my Khan Academy class. Most of you used your school email, but if you didn't, just use whatever email that you used. So we're going to look at Geometry Youngblood is the class you should be looking at if you have multiple classes on this side. And the first assignment we're going to go through is using the Pythagorean Theorem to find right triangle side lengths. This is our first problem. We're asked to find the missing side length using the Pythagorean Theorem. And we're going to head to our sketch pad and work that out. So for the first problem in my problem set, I've gone ahead and pasted it over here. Again, we're using the Pythagorean Theorem. So remember, the Pythagorean Theorem is that formula we learned when we were talking about the distance formula. The formula is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. A and b are the legs of the right triangle, or the sides of the right triangle that make the right angle, and c is the hypotenuse of the right triangle, or the side that is across from the right angle. So in this example, our A is 9, our B is 12, because those are these two sides here making the right angle, and our C is X. And again, that's because it's this side that is across from the right angle. So now we're just going to plug in our numbers and see what we get. A squared is 9 squared plus 12 squared equals x squared. We're going to square those numbers. 81 plus 144 equals x squared. We're going to add them and get 225 equals x squared. And then when we take the square root, we are going to get the whole number 15. So again, I just did that math in my head, but I'll show you that last calculation on my calculator. I did the square root of 225, and that, you might not be able to see it, but it says 15 on my calculator. You also have the square root function on Androids, iPhones, if you have a smartphone. If you're having issues with that, just reach out and I can help you find a resource that will help you find the square roots. So our missing side length should be 18. If we go back to the Khan Academy problem, we see these are multiple choice, and our answer is going to be 15. So there will be times when it's not going to simplify under the radical. They were pretty kind, and they just give you the square root over the number. So all the answers will be the correct answer, or the final answer in Khan Academy. So this problem set is 7 problems, so I'm just going to keep chugging, and I'll be working in my sketch scene for the majority of this video. So this is our next problem that was taken from Khan Academy. We have this right triangle. Sorry, trying to zoom in for you guys. 8, X, and 10. So we first need to figure out what our A, B, and C are. Our A and B, remember, make up the right angle, so that's going to be these two sides. 8 and X. And our C is always the side across from the right angle, so our C is going to be 10 in this problem. So for our formula, we have A squared plus B squared equals C squared. 8 squared is 64 plus X squared equals 100. We're going to subtract 64 from both sides to get X by itself. So we get X squared equals 36. We're going to take the square root, so So our final answer for this one should be x equals 6. For our next problem, we're going to have 2, 10, and x. So again, let's identify our sides. So we have 2 and 10 are the two sides making the right angle. So our A is 2, our B is 10, our C is the side across from the right angle. So our C is x. Now let's plug them into the formula. 2 squared plus 10 squared equals x squared. That's 4 plus 100 equals x squared. So that is 104 equals x squared. Then we're going to take the square root. So our final answer should be the square root of 104 would be the length of our missing side for that problem. This is our next problem. So again, we have this right triangle, and these are our two sides making the right angle. So these are our legs. So we have A equals 4, B equals x. Just keep in mind that these values can be switched. So A and B, they don't necessarily have to be 4. I could have had A equals x and B equals 4, as long as A and B are the two sides that are making the right angle. So don't stress about that. And then lastly, C is going to be the side that is across from our right angle. So C is 9. So now we're going to plug them into the formula. 4 squared plus x squared equals 9 squared. 4 squared is 16 plus x squared equals 81 minus 16 on both sides. So x squared equals 81 minus 16 gets us 65. Take the square root of both sides. So x is going to be the square root of 65. In our next problem, we're given this triangle. The two legs are the two sides making our right angle. 2.5. Oops, make that a little bit neater. 0.5 and x. So again, that's because these two sides form the right angle. And then our hypotenuse is the side across from the right angle. So C equals 6.5. Our formula is going to be 2.5 squared plus x squared equals 6.5 squared. I feel like I said this, but in case I didn't, 2.5 squared means that I'm doing 2.5 times 2.5. So when you're squaring a number, you're multiplying it by yourself. Again, you might not be able to see that, but the answer I got in my calculator was 6.25 plus x squared equals 6.5 times 6.5 gets us 42.25. Okay, so now we're going to subtract 6.25 from both sides to get x squared by itself. So we get x squared equals 36. I got that by doing 0.25 minus 0.25 and then 42 minus 6. So that got me 36. And then take the square root of both sides. So that missing side, x, should be 6. This is our last problem in this first problem set. So again, two sides making the right angle are the 7 and the 4. So A equals 7, B equals 4. Our hypotenuse is going to be x. So C equals x. C equals x. So now we're going to write our equation. 7 squared plus 4 squared equals x squared. 49 plus 16 equals x squared. That's going to be 65. 40 plus 10 is 50. 9 plus 6 is 16. 9 plus 6 is 15. 15 plus 50 is 65 is x squared. And then take the square root of both sides to get the square root of 65 is x. So that's our final answer for this last problem. So let's switch back to our browser and type that in. Square root of 65. Nice. That's our last problem in that set. First set, yay, done, okay. So now we're going to look at right triangle side lengths. So this problem set is only 4 problems. In this problem set, what you have to do is determine which of these 3 sides make a right triangle. So basically what we are doing is seeing if you square the first 2 numbers, is it going to be equal to the square root of this number? So I'm going to copy this over to my sketch pad and we'll work on it in there. So again, we're seeing out of these 3 options, which ones have 3 side lengths that will make a right triangle. They were kind enough to put them in order from least to greatest. Something you might not have noticed, but something that should be a little intuitive, is the longest side is always going to be across from the right angle. So remember, all 3 angles in a triangle have to add to 180. So the biggest number or the biggest angle you can actually have, if 90 degrees is in the triangle, then you can't have a number bigger than 90 in the triangle, right? So if it adds to 180, 180 minus 90 is 90. So the remaining 2 angles have to add to 90. So they have to be less than 90. Long story short, the longest side length is always going to be the hypotenuse. That's basically what that means. So they were kind enough to always put the answers in order from least to greatest. So you don't have to verify that the square root of 8 is bigger than 33. The last number is always going to be our hypotenuse. So the A and B will always be the first 2 numbers. So for this first one, we have 5 squared plus 8 squared, which is going to equal, let me just write it underneath. I think that was the easiest way to get my students to understand it. 25 plus 64, which equals, 25 plus 64 gets us 89. And then when we take the square root of 89, that is not going to equal the square root, or 33 squared. Oh my goodness. Just basically ignore everything I just said for that problem. I approached that terribly wrong. Let's try that again. So what we're doing is 5 squared plus the square root of 8 squared. And we are trying to see if that equals 33 squared. So again, A and B are here, and C is the last number. So that's why we set it up like that. Now let's see if this is true. 5 squared is 25. This is the tricky part, a little. The square root of 8 squared is going to be 8. So if I do the square root of 8 times the square root of 8, that just gets me 8. Basically, this exponent cancels with this radical. So 25 plus 8, we want to see if that equals 33 squared. So 25 plus 8 is going to be 33, but it does not equal 33 squared. So this one is not going to be one of our answers. Let's try it with the next one. 8, let me use a different color so we don't get confused. So now we're going to have 8 squared plus 5, here, got a little stuff there, 15 squared equals 17 squared. So that would be 64 plus 225 equals 17 squared, which is 289. And that is true. 64 plus 225 is 289. So when we go back to that screen, we're going to select that as one of our answers. Last one we have. So we have, similar to the first one, square root of 2 squared plus the square root of 2 squared equals 2 squared. So that would put us at 2 plus 2 equals 4. And that is true. So that would be another correct answer. So we're going to select B and C back on our browser. Interesting. Oh, it probably timed out on me. So it would be B and C. Okay. So for the majority of these, I'll be doing them just in the sketch screen. So we'll switch back to that. This is our next problem. Let's just start with A. We'll use orange. So, interesting. 4 squared plus 8. It's sticky. 8 squared equals 12 squared. So we would get 16 plus 64 equals 144. In your calculator, if you do that, that is not, oh, there's something on there. That is not true. So that's why A is not the answer. Okay, let's do the next one. 2 squared plus the square root of 5 squared equals 3 squared. 4 plus 5 equals 9. Yes, it does. So B would be an answer. And for the last one, 2 squared plus 2 squared equals the square root of 8 squared. 4 plus 4 equals 8. Yes, it does. So that one is going to be an answer. So our two answers for this one would be B. For our next problem in the set, we have 3 squared plus the square root of 9 squared equals the square root of 18 squared. So that would be 9 plus 9 equals 18, which is true. So we would bubble A. 3 squared plus 4 squared equals 5 squared. 9 plus 16 equals 25, which is true. So we would bubble B as well. For the last one, 7 squared plus 7 squared equals the square root of 98. That's 49 plus 49, squared equals 98. Wow, that's true too. So for this problem, you would bubble all three. So again, the reason I'm bubbling these is because these are true statements, right? 9 plus 9 is 18, 9 plus 16 is 25, 49 plus 49 is 98. The reason we did not bubble this one was because 16 plus 64 does not equal 144. So that's why it has an X to it. Okay, sorry, I was talking to myself through the first one. I'm in the first one, which I did already. 2 squared plus 2 squared equals the square root of 4 squared. That gets us 4 plus 4 does not equal 4, so that's why we did not mark that one. For the next one, we have 9 squared plus 40 squared equals 41 squared. So that would be 81 plus 200 equals 41 times 41 gets us, this is one. I did 40 wrong. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. 40 times 40 is 1600. There we go. 40 times 40. 1600, yeah. 41 times 41 gets us 1681. And that is true. So that's why this one would cause us to bubble. The last one, square root of 5 squared plus 10 squared equals the square root of 125 squared. So that would be 5 plus 100 equals 125. Again, these are just canceling. That's why we never, that's why we don't square this number underneath. But this is not true. So the only one we would bubble for this last one would be B. Let's switch back to our browser and bubble that last one. Okay, so that's the next problem set. And the last problem set we have is using the Pythagorean Theorem to find isosceles triangle side lengths. Looks like I already started it, I think when I was working with some other students during class. We're just going to jump into this first one and put it in our sketchpad. So as the title of this problem set describes, in this set of problems you are looking at right triangles in isosceles triangles. So we're using the Pythagorean theorem to find missing side lengths in isosceles triangles. So let's trace our right triangle that is in here. So keep in mind, because this is an isosceles triangle, they tell us these two angles are the same. These two sides have to be the same. So if we were to split this up into two right triangles, those two right triangles would be equal by side, angle, side, because this side has to be congruent to itself. If both these triangles are equal to each other, then these bottom lengths have to be the same. So basically, before we can start, we have to keep in mind that this length that we're focused on is only 4. So now we're looking at this triangle, this purple triangle. Our A and B are the two sides that make up the right angle. So our A is X, our B is 4, and our C is the side across from the right angle. So our C is the square root of 52. And in the previous set, we learned how to deal with side lengths that look like this with the radical. So we would have x squared plus 4 squared equals the square root of 52 squared. So that would be x squared plus 16 equals 52. Then we can subtract 16 from both sides. So x squared equals 36. So this side length is going to be 36. I will delete that. That is going to be confusing to my people looking at the notes later. So yeah, x. Oh, it's not 36. We're not done. Silly. Take the square root. So x is 6. So this side length, this green side that I outlined, is going to be 6. So let's switch back to our browser. Let's see. Yeah, so that answer is going to be 6. And again, for the remainder of this, we'll stay in the sketch screen until we complete the set. This triangle is for the next problem in the set. So again, we have this right triangle here. And keep in mind that this length is 2. We're dividing this in half. So our two sides making the right angle are going to be 2 and 3. So A equals 2, B equals 3, and the side across from that right angle is this x. So that is our C. C equals x. So now for our equation, we're going to have 2 squared plus 3 squared equals x squared. So that's 4 plus 9 equals x squared. 13 equals x squared. Take the square root. So the square root of 13 is our missing side, x. Goodness gracious. For the next problem, we're given this triangle. So we're going to trace our right triangle. the two sides making our right angle. We don't know this side, so we've already called this bottom half, this bottom whole side x. So let's call this maybe y, so we don't get confused. So we're gonna have a equals 8, b equals y, and that's because those two sides are making the right angle. And then our c is going to be the square root of 80 because it's across from the right angle. So our equation is 8 squared plus y squared equals the square root of 80 squared. So 64 plus y squared equals 80. Subtract 64 from both sides. And that gets you y squared equals 16. Take the square root of both sides, so y is 4. So if this side is 4, this whole side x has to be 8. So again, that's because these two sides are equal and they're both half of this whole thing. So we have to remember to double our answer for this one. So our final answer for this one would be x equals 8. This is our next problem in the set. I'm going to do all of mine, but again, if you're getting the hang of it, you can pause or end the video here. So for this problem, we're looking at this right triangle. I could have chose the other side just as easily. I just keep choosing the right side probably because I'm right-handed. So the two sides that are making up the right angle are these two. So a equals x, and keep in mind this other side is going to be 4. It is half of this whole length. That's really the most tricky thing on here. And this side, 8, is going to be our c because it's across from the right angle. So we have x squared plus 4 squared equals 8 squared. X squared plus 16 equals 64. Subtract 16 from both sides. So you would get x squared equals 48. Just verify that. Yes, and then we're going to take the square root of both sides. So our x, that height, that middle side is going to be the square root of 48. And this is actually the last problem in my problem set. So let's go through this and then we'll end by typing it in. So looking at this right triangle, my legs are my A and B. So I have 8, and keep in mind that this length is 6. So A equals 8, B equals 6, and C is this side that is across from the right angle. So C equals x. So we're going to have 8 squared plus 6 squared equals x squared. So that's 64 plus 36 equals x squared. So 100 equals x squared. Take the square root, so 10 is x. So our missing side here, x is going to be 10. So we're going to switch back to our browser. We were on the browser the whole time. Full problem. Here. So just in case you guys missed what I was writing, I do want to go back through. I believe it was just this one that we missed. But remember, these notes will be posted on Google Classroom. My apologies for not switching back. Technology will fail us at times. So again, that was this last problem. If you want to pause the video and kind of look at my work there. There was another problem that I think I might have been on the browser for. If you want to pause the video and look at my work there, and then I'll quickly talk about this one because I know this one was on the browser. So we have 8 and 6 are the two sides making the right angle. Those are our A and B. So we have 8 squared plus 6 squared equals x squared because our x was C. and then we squared those and got 64 and 36. 64 plus 36 is 100. We took the square root of both sides, so we got x equals 10. So this length here is x equals 10. So now let's switch back to the browser. And type in that final answer of 10. Okay, my apologies. Miscommunication. So again, all 3 problem sets should be completed. They are due Friday, but just keep in mind that those due dates are just suggestions so that you don't get behind. You can complete them at any point as long as it's done before June 12th if you're seeking credit for those assignments. I just want to close out by reminding you to make sure you're following the daily schedule. You need to at least be checking in with your teachers on each of these days, at each of these times. So we just did the session for 4B, so I won't see you again until Monday for 3A, so that'll be my next geometry session. But please keep in mind you can come to office hours or the last 30 minutes of the classes and just pop in and see if they're not too busy, and if they aren't, I'll be able to help you. But office hours are open for anybody, so I have office hours Friday from 12 to 1, Wednesday from 2 to 3, and Tuesdays from 11 to 12. Just make sure you're checking in because I might have other meetings or other things to do, but I will let you know if I'm available, and most of the time I am. Lastly, make sure that you are doing the check-in for the week. Those are points that can help your grade for quarter 4. And that's it. So I thank you for watching this video, and I hope to see and hear from you soon. Bye.